So here we're doing the air conditioning on a street sweeper, and I'm only doing it for diagnosis because I've already found the leak. The leak is at the condenser. It's really obvious, but it only had 110 grams in the system, and the system takes 1,300 grams. And the leak is a small leak, right? You can see the UV dye right there at the corner down at where the fins, where the refrigerant tubes go in to the header. And I'm just showing you using micron gauges at different points, showing you how a micron gauge, you lose efficiency, you lose some of your power by using hoses, and how much is lost. So we have two vacuum pumps, but I just wanted, this one here has a micron gauge located before the hose, deep down in here. So at this point we have 330 microns right there. Over on this one, I'm at the midpoint of a refrigerant hose and going into the gauges right there. So this one is not being taken here, you're taking it out here. I'm at 530 microns at this point at the midway of a hose. Now let's go all the way up to the manifold, and in the manifold right here a micron gauge is located, and this is all the way at the end of the refrigerant hoses where we're drawing vacuum. We're at 1293 microns, and then it has to go from the manifold through the hose and then to another micron gauge that's just before the fitting right here, and we're at 1323 microns. So you see how you lose some of your capacity of drawing microns by going through rubber refrigerant hoses, starting all the way from down here at 300, getting all the way to this point. Now we can isolate this and just draw through the low side just by merely doing this connector, this fitting right here. So now we're no longer drawing through here. I could shut it off here too, so we totally take this hose out of the loop, so it's not even drawing vacuum through the hose. That's no longer an issue. We're now you see the microns. Watch. Let's see if we go. Right now we're only drawing through the low side. Now look what we jumped down to. Because we lost that losses of the hose here and coming through this side, we dropped down to 760 at this point. In the midpoint we went from 500 and something to 300 and something, and from here we went from 300 to 160 because now we have a smaller volume of hose that we're going through. We're only going through one hose with a restriction at the end. So now let's turn off all of our vacuum to the system. See if I can get over there and reach it. And I'm going to unscrew this one, and this will totally isolate the vacuum and my hoses from the system. And now you're only reading this micron gauge because this is the only one that is on this side of this valve connected to the system. And after it stabilizes out, if you watched it long enough and you stood here, it would actually start going back up. Right now it's stabling out, and the system will stable if there was no leak, and if there was no moisture in the system and no refrigerant trapped in the oil. This will probably rise and keep rising because of that leak over there if I put it on for hours and watch it. It's such a small leak. But as you can see over here, since I turned off the hoses, I'm only drawing a vacuum in the manifold in one hose. So now we're down to 241 microns there. And then come midway, we're at 53 microns. At that point, right there. We are at 16 microns at that time. 16.3, 16, and we're falling. Go 15.9. There you go, 15.6, and it slowly will fall. So it falls as it's drying out the hoses and removing refrigerant and moisture contamination in the hoses. These numbers will keep falling. These hoses The refrigerant gauges are not attached to the system because I have it shut off there and I have it shut off right there. Now if I were to just open this one, see, look at our gauge right now, and it'll still, and you're going, but why is it going down when there's a leak? The leak is very, very small, and that leak might not be leaking under vacuum. There's leaks that will leak like that. You see the refrigerant dye everywhere, but won't, because there's an oil film on the metal where there's a crack and the metal's cold. Maybe the metal has tightened up and the oil film is enough to make a perfect vacuum so it doesn't leak. So you can completely pass a vacuum decay test and have a leak like that under pressure. So I'm going to open this back up. Let's open up the high side here. Okay, now I just opened up the vacuum to this red hose, the high side. Now I'm going to open up this lever here to this point. Now we'll watch. Open. Now it's open to there. Yeah, these are open. Now I'm going to open the other side to the system. There we go. Now we're open to the low side and we're now connected. And I'm going to fill the system back up, even though I have to replace the condenser because I want to know the condition of the compressor and the expansion valve. And then I'm going to recover all 2.88 pounds or 1,300 grams, recover it all back out after I fill it back up. All right, see you guys later.